Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm delighted to be able to host this panel of incredible innovators in biotechnology and healthcare, and we're delighted to be here in the Kingdom. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Josh Fink. I'm the founder of Luma Group. We focus on translating cutting-edge science into game-changing and novel therapeutics, diagnostics, and devices. Maybe to start off, if each of you could spend a minute or two introducing yourself and telling us a bit about what you're focused on. Ken?
Thanks, Josh. My name is Ken Drazan. I'm the founder and CEO of ArsenalBio. We're a privately held company that has brought in up to $1 billion of capital to date, and our focus is curing patients with solid tumors.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rahul Singhvi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called National Resilience based in the US. And our mission is to produce medicines faster, cheaper, better, cleaner, using technology so that we can transcend any differences in wages and make them in the US at globally competitive prices.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susan Silbermann. I'm the CEO of a vaccine company. And we are discovering and hoping to develop innovative vaccines with novel platforms to reach the people who need them most all around the world. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Thank you, Susan.
Hi, I'm Benjamine Liu, co-founder and CEO of FormationBio. We're a tech and AI native pharma company with the thesis that as drug discovery gets more efficient, our industry struggles to develop everything it discovers. So as a company, we built all the technology, people, processes, AI applications to run drug development more efficiently. We acquire or license drugs already discovered, develop them through using our drug development engine beyond clinical proof of concept.
And hi, Josh, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity here and for the Future Investment Initiative. My name is Adel Al-Marshad. I'm a triple-boarded physician, scientist, and now actually in policy. I work for the Royal Commission for Riyadh City. So welcome everyone to Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. My goal is to build the ecosystem where the future unicorns and the innovation that humanity is going to be served well with to happen here in the city of Riyadh. My vision is to have Saudi Arabia as strong as we are in actually the fossil fuel and the energy, to be the place where in 2040, 2050, the focus of the world of innovation and development. So thank you again, Josh, for the opportunity.
Thank you all so much. Maybe one high-level question, because I think you'll all come at it from a slightly different perspective, and then we'll touch on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. What are the specific factors that are driving this revolution in biotech and healthcare, and how are they creating a unique environment for breakthroughs? Ken?
Thanks, Josh. Well, there are a variety of waves of implementing the most advanced technologies in pharmaceuticals and diagnostics today. A lot of discussion at this conference about the intersection of cloud computing and algorithm development, so-called AI. There's also the precision methods of measuring human biology now, genomics, RNA, proteomics, and there are new tools for devising molecules that can be therapeutic, both through AI, gene editing, and small molecule design.
Rahul?
So I've been coming to Saudi for the last 3 years and have gotten to understand a little bit more about the needs here. And I see a couple of things emerging. First, the focus on genomics. The Saudi genomics program is very important and I think very ambitious, and it's going to give the data that's going to be necessary for understanding the basis of disease in this population. And then having the capabilities to produce medicines using a capability in biomanufacturing locally, so that they can not only understand the basis of disease, but to produce medicines against those diseases locally. I feel that those two things are very important. And the third area that I see a lot of emphasis here is in locally producing products that are important for the population, like vaccines and plasma products, that are, if you don't have local and you have supply chain disruptions, you can be in bad shape. So those three things: genomics, making cell and gene therapies that can address create the medicines against those diseases that you discover, and then producing life-saving medicines for national security, like vaccines and plasma products?
Vaccines come at it from a different angle. So we are technically a medicine if you look up the definition, but we're all about keeping people from getting sick. So it's not sick care, it's truly health care. And the idea that so many things in the life sciences and therapeutics have changed. You know, I could use a lot of buzzwords around AI, but ultimately there's so many things we've learned how to do better, faster, more relevant with better safety that haven't been applied to the vaccine field. And so what I see as the great opportunity for this company is to really apply all those tools, no matter what you call them, to actually developing the products that you can give to a healthy person, and guess what? They stay healthy. So vaccines have been on everybody's mind since the pandemic, then they sort of went away. Our goal is to make them come back and to be up there and elevated to be used to prevent all sorts of diseases, some of which we can't prevent today, and some of which we can use these tools to prevent them better with newer and more innovative vaccines.
Ben?
Yeah, maybe just to echo, Ken, I think we're living in the golden age of biotech with drug discovery, with new platforms and modalities, and with AI making the cost to discover a new drug only get more and more efficient. We see a big opportunity around drug development, given that that is the fundamental bottleneck, especially when you have this input in, output kind of bottleneck challenge. And drug development historically has been one of the most cost and time intensive steps. And with actually AI, we think one of the biggest applications around AI is to tackle some of the more nuts and bolts of drug development, like clinical trials or medical writing, protocol development. These kind of steps will give the industry a lot of leverage to ultimately develop more things it discovers.
Wonderful. I think what's been said about the science is very applicable, but allow me to speak to the strength of what we have around the policy. I can give you 3 points here, Josh, and to the panel. The first one reason why biotechnology is now here in Saudi Arabia for this new era is before the vision of His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince. Without this, we would not be actually be talking about the biotechnology and actually the future that we have in Saudi Arabia. The second one is the young youth. There's a critical concentration here in Saudi Arabia that's really eager to go into biotechnology. The Saudi government has invested in a lot of cadre of researchers and actually teachers now in Saudi Arabia that are just aching for the biotech revolution. The third thing is the commitment to collaborate. As the governor, the chair of PIF, and the chairman of the Future Investment Initiatives mentioned, 125 billions of facilitated deals took place right here. And it's time that we take a bet on biotech in Saudi Arabia.
Dr. Adel, that's an incredible vision here for the kingdom. Maybe to ask you a specific question on the implementation of that vision, what role can international collaboration and knowledge transfer play in accelerating the growth of Saudi Arabia's biotech sector? And what do you think the main challenges are of fostering these partnerships?
Absolutely. I don't see an opportunity to actually go ahead and allow Saudi Arabia to leap forward into the future of biotechnology without actually our collaboration or our partnership. You see what FII has been able to establish here is through collaboration. The challenges we have here is come back to us and stress us with a grand challenge. Saudi Arabia needs a grand challenge. I've been attending a lot of the meetings, a lot of the sessions, a lot of the labs, and we hear about the importance of being focused. So what we need our partners to come back to is, here's what Saudi Arabia could be doing differently. As our gentleman, the CEO of Resilience, have mentioned, we have a unique genomic profile in Saudi Arabia. But more importantly than this is that we have the commitment, we have the capital allocation, and we have the people to make this actually happen in Saudi Arabia. I'm reminded of the incredible feat that humanity has been able to achieve in 2020 on Operation Warp Speed, where we're able to actually sequence, publish a vaccine, and actually go ahead and administer it in less than 12 months. This is unheard of. As a practicing physician, as a person who had molecular biology in their life, a lot of people are talking about looking to the future. Honestly, we don't need to look into the future. We can just look back 3 years ago and say, could we do this again? And we want to make this happen in Saudi Arabia. Help us come here and build up the ecosystem. Let's create the focus group. Let's have the initiative. Let's have a grand challenge that will develop a vaccine for humanity, to develop a cure in cancer, or cardiometabolic diseases that afflicted in Saudi Arabia in a higher proportion than others. And you have a partner here at the Royal Commission for Riyadh City to make this happen. We are responsible for 3 verticals that will allow you to enable this into the future. We own all the quaternary care assets, the premier institution that exists in the country. We own the coveted educational institutions, and we are responsible for the city at large. So I could now think of a better platform for a collaboration that would allow this actually to go into a success and impact humanity.
An incredible ethos and an incredible framework.
Absolutely.
Maybe to get more granular, and maybe I'll direct this question to both Ben and Ken. We have panelists working on cutting-edge technologies like AI-driven drug discovery and cell therapy. How can technologies converge to address pressing patient challenges in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and globally?
Thanks, Josh. Well, I'll speak towards cell therapy because that's what our company does. And I think it's now widely known that cell therapy is a real market, and cures have been developed in liquid tumors. The larger number of patients who suffer from cancer are from solid tumors. So the promise here, I think, in Saudi Arabia is a unique one in that you have a concentration of quaternary care centers that can provide outstanding care, and you have the ability to localize manufacturing nearby, so logistics can be simplified. The opportunity then is really about the commitment. I have a very high prevalence and a rising prevalence of cancers because of some of the sort of natural effects of the lifestyle here in Saudi Arabia. So I think the commitment, it sounds like is there. What needs to take place next is to bring in the partners, put the full chain together so that the expertise can be linked together with the innovation that's going on abroad and make it practical in the next few years. And then you'll find yourself in an implementation phase as you wish.
Ben?
Thanks, Josh. And just to add to Ken, I think there's a lot of really great ingredients in the kingdom. A really robust patient population, really great data infrastructure, and really, I think, commitment to the sector, which I think is so important. But maybe an additional factor I want to highlight that I think is so important is a culture of entrepreneurship and willing to adopt things early. And one of the things that we've kind of noticed, especially with all these proliferating AI technologies, is so much of the advantage comes from being just an early adopter and having a culture that promotes people to try and adopt some of these things more aggressively. And this is where I think there's opportunities for leapfrogging. It's very clear as these reasoning models get pushed forward that we're going to have agents soon, right? If not already in certain areas. And what would we mean by that? Well, there's tools that can augment the work that a scientist does, and in the very near future actually kind of be part of actually a scientific organization where you have maybe a really great principal investigator powered by a bunch of AI scientists. And so what I think is a really exciting part, an opportunity for the region, is instead of having to convince maybe an ossified population group to say, hey, look, let's adopt some of these real AI agents that can one day be your scientific organizations or part of this kind of system, there's already an ethos of wanting to try and being on the frontier of a lot of these kind of opportunity sets. And I wouldn't trivialize that. And so much of, when I meet big pharma CEOs and CEOs of big organizations, that the hardest part is actually the change management. Like, how do you get a team to get excited about, building an AI system that might take away certain jobs with the current kind of workflow? And what I found very apparent while I've had conversations with a number of folks in this region is that willingness to say, we're willing to adopt this, we're willing to think beyond our current workflow and then be able to leverage this in a more comprehensive way without maybe some of the historic convoluted kind of challenges of convincing people to do things differently.
Yeah, it's really amazing how the kingdom is taking on this challenge and opportunity of AI head on, and thinking about it in a really detailed fashion. That's well articulated, Ben. Rahul, national resilience, focuses on reimagining biomanufacturing. How can advancements in biomanufacturing processes contribute to the kingdom's goal of self-sufficiency in critical medicines and vaccines?
So I think the localization of manufacturing is now becoming more of a reality. And that's happening because we have now developed instruments, or we are in the process of developing instruments that can transcend the economy of scale problem, especially with personalized medicine. So the first example of this is going to be in autologous cell therapy, where you have a batch of one. And how do you make that economically viable? It's not going to happen from making large number of the same doses in a big vat, which is how we were trained for the regular drugs. So in those type of drugs, which are important for this country because of the rare diseases and some of the oncology applications, that could be the first way for us to implement a manufacturing system that can be adjacent to a hospital, where you can have a manufacturing that is cutting edge, treating the most advanced patients with the most advanced medicines, like the ones that Ken is developing. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other part is mass production and very quickly adopting best practices of mass production for something like vaccines, where you have to deploy like large number of vaccines for the entire population. And this is a large population, about 30 million people, and with a large birth cohort. So if you're going to make pediatric vaccines here, you have to have millions of doses produced every year. So you have to have, on one end, localized manufacturing of autologous or individualized medicines, for which you need new technology. And on the other hand, mass production by taking advantage of best practices and leapfrogging all the hard work and the man years of work that other countries like the US have gone through to become what they are. So that's the way they can benefit, is to learn from others who have actually gone through that process and immediately become part of the present and the future.
It's a real advantage for the region to be able to
100%.
learn from the failures, learn from the successes of others, and implement a greenfield here.
That would be the smart thing to do.
Absolutely. Susan, your extensive experience in vaccine development, given your extensive experience in vaccine development, how can Saudi Arabia leverage its resources to become a global leader in vaccine production and contribute to global health?
I think the one thing I've learned in the time that I've been here, just the last few days, is this willingness to want not to just help the kingdom, but help the world.
Yes.
And vaccines are a global product. They always have been, and they always will be. And I think the importance that we learned about having some manufacturing flexibility during the pandemic, I hate to say it, everybody, but will only come up again when we have the next one. It's going to happen. I sort of hope it won't be in my lifetime, but I think we have to prepare that it will be. And so I think where the kingdom can do something that no one else has ever done, because to Rahul's point, it's greenfield. You can start with the idea of serving the globe. Of course you want to serve your own citizens. I don't think the Crown Prince would have put the plan together if he didn't put Saudi citizens first. But I think by doing it greenfield and doing it in a way that you can use like the tools that Ben's company has we can shorten development timelines. We can use the tools that Ken has taught me a lot about in the last 2 days on how to race through antigen design, and something that used to take 3 months, 3 years, 30 years will now take, 3 minutes, 3 days. I think if you start with the idea of huge collaboration, bringing it here where you have the capital, you have the commitment, you're convinced that you can do it, you guys can become a major vaccine producer for the world. I don't want to say tomorrow, but maybe next week.
Okay, and we will, Susan. With your help and everyone.
You will.
Josh, absolutely.
So we've spent a lot of time here at FII talking about data. And so what's important here with this vision and with the implementation of the vision are, what are the KPIs? What does success look like? And I'm curious, in kind of 1 minute each, if you were helping the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia think about KPIs for success, what does success look like in 5-10 years? What might that look like? And curious, a minute each from each of you.
Yeah, thanks. So, the biotech industry is such an exciting area that people can personalize through their own health experiences. and we're all looking at this innovative technology called artificial intelligence. All of us who work in this industry right now that are working on large language models are constrained by our access to computing power. We might be able to get it, we might not be able to get it though in committed resources, and we might not be able to get it in committed resources over a long period of time. So should the opportunity be relevant for the Saudi people, I think building data centers to support the innovations in biotechnology, you would find a rush to your door. You have the low cost of accessing energy, you have renewables, and you have physical space to actually build it. And so that represents a huge opportunity in the future for you to build that capability, and people will come to you because the electrons can move over pipes to get here.
Yes.
I think the second is also making a regulatory framework that will attract data in from not just locally, but from around the world. And creating a federated strategy so Saudi could be in the middle rather than at the end of a spoke would also denominate the Saudi people as a critical resource for the future of biotechnology.
Yeah, so I'll speak from my experience over the last 3 years, and it may be a little bit provocative, so I apologize. I think the one KPI that I would advise is the speed of decision making. And the speed of decision making inherently requires you to be courageous enough to make mistakes. Because if you're going to go fast, you're going to break a few things. The one thing I know why the system works in the US in terms of innovation is because we have the courage to accept failure. And I have seen that there is a lot of perseveration in decision making here, in spite of the fact that people want to move fast, for whatever reason. So openly speaking, that is the one piece of advice I'll give you is learn to accept failure and move fast. Because you will miss this great opportunity that you have. You have a lot of capital here. You have the right type of population, like demographics, the right mindsets most of the time, except I think that there's a little bit of concern around failure.
Rahul, that's well put. So much of what makes the US so special and so unique is this desire to take risk. Sometimes you fail. You just can't make the same mistake twice. You have to learn from your failures.
I would certainly echo Rahul's point. I think the one thing about biotech that I've learned in my vast 18 months after leaving a career in a large company for 30 years is it's very fast. And you have to make fast decisions, and you have to make them with less than perfect data. And you don't want to do anything that would put human health at risk, but you will do things that you make a decision that you might decide a month later, well, maybe I should have gone right instead of left. You can't be afraid of that, because in that month that you didn't wait to make the decision, you learned that you have to go right and not left. And so I think speed is very important. I think there's another element that has been touched on in a few panels, but I think it's something that has to be seriously looked at here. It's talent. It's education and talent. I know how much emphasis the kingdom has put on education. I know, again, in my past life, how hard it was to find certain people that did certain things. Some of them, like Rahul and his experience, are few and far between. So we have to create a new class. You have a young population. They're eager to learn. Get them the education they need so that you can build something here that isn't all about imported talent. Maybe you'll have to import some talent to help train them. That's all part of the global collaboration that I think healthcare should be. But I think without people, you'll go nowhere. You can have beautiful buildings and great electricity and wonderful computing power, but if you have nobody that knows how to plug it in, it's not going to work.
Absolutely.
I think my KPIs are pretty simple. Drugs approved in the region, and I think the more ambitious one is drugs approved first in the kingdom versus anywhere else. And then the leading indicator of that is the number of trials for programs that have been approved. And then, obviously the number of trials just being run in the kingdom. I really, am excited always about leapfrogging kind of opportunities, and I think the kingdom has a unique opportunity to think about a unique regulatory framework. And I know there are a number of discussions along those lines, but I think one of the conversations we kind of have a lot is how do we make the regulatory process faster and more efficient? And if you think about what a lot of regulatory processes are, it's actually a lot of manual reviewers looking through applications, and this is actually where some of the large language models have some of the biggest kind of opportunity sets. And going by the willpower, I know the mandate is there. I think the opportunity is there, and I think it'd be really neat to have another a country or geographic region where we've kind of took a blank sheet of paper and thought about how do we make the regulatory submission process really fit for purpose for the modern age and for the tools that we have. And ultimately, I think the KPI is how many new drugs do we have approved, how long did it take, and how expensive or inexpensive it is. And I think there's a real opportunity here to make a big dent.
Thank you. Very well taken. And what I would like to see is a sense of urgency. What Susan said, unfortunately, the pandemic came in the past. It's going to happen in the future. We're going to forget about it. I need that sense of urgency. That urgency is going to allow us to create the collaborations we need. It's going to allow us to get through the decision making that we need. We need FIIs for biotechnology. We need conventions. We need people to come together. We need to build up the knowledge of the public about the importance of biotechnology. There's a very high burden of proof that you have to actually meet for the safety and the efficacy. And sometimes that could be a challenge to actually allow innovation to move forward. We need to ask you, with your collaboration, to say, how do we create this coalition here in Saudi Arabia? I don't want you to come back in a year from now. I want you to come back a month from now, and then that month after. I see Josh coming into Saudi Arabia and keeping this as an active effort. That's what we really want, is that sense of urgency, that sense of focus. That way we can go to our labs, to our researchers, to our clinicians, to our patients, and say, this is how we're going to go and meet that value-based healthcare. One thing Josh said in the previous session that really touched me a lot. You're either a patient in the past or a patient now, you're either a patient in the future. And this is going to affect economical, social indicators, all at large. We can serve humanity here in Saudi Arabia by creating this niche. And this could not happen without the collaboration and the efforts and the pioneering work that you guys do.
Thank you all. Well, we're almost out of time, but Susan, I want to key off of something you focused on, which is talent. For Saudi Arabia to develop its biotech ecosystem, you need students who are in school today to focus on becoming a biotech entrepreneur, to focus on becoming a biologist, to focus on becoming a data scientist here in the kingdom. You need the youth to look at this and see an opportunity. What advice, maybe in 30 seconds each, would you give the budding youth here in Saudi Arabia to enter this field in all aspects and really excel in this field?
Well, it's worth the journey. There's no more gratifying personal experience in a profession, I think, than helping another human being. I've been a clinician in my life, an inventor, and a practicing biotechnologist and an executive. There's no greater mission than to help other humans. So I think the Saudi government and its people should embark on that mission because they have the ability to do that. They just have to point the arrow and go.
I would say if you want to inspire your youth, tell them stories.
Yep.
Tell them stories of heroes that you want them to become. So if you want them to have biotechnology people make heroes of biotech innovators, people who have saved a lot of lives, that's the way a child is going to be inspired to go into this field.
Susan?
Sponsor 1,000 Saudi PhD students to spend 3 years at a biotech company somewhere in the world. I'll take 3. Then they'll work with us. They'll spend time, and then when they get here, they'll take all those ideas and all that learning, and we'll continue to work with them to build it here too. I just think, you've got to inspire them to see how far they can go. People like Ken, these guys have done amazing things in the biotech space. It's a great opportunity. I feel like I never would have chosen another career because you help so many people in a single day.
I think every major biotech ecosystem is born out of success and around role models and companies and entrepreneurs that made it. And so I think investing in local companies and making sure that there is a lighthouse biotech in the region. I think that's really important. In the absence of that, I think as my fellow co-panelists mentioned, things like mentorship programs or showcase other folks who have done it. But I do think ultimately what really catalyzes an ecosystem is making sure that winners are born in the ecosystem and they kind of pay it forward. Absence of that mentorship, programs like the ones that are suggested, I think are really fruitful.
Thank you, Josh. And it really, truly is about investing in our youth, our young people, to really invest in humanity at large. So really thank you for this session. Really enjoyed actually talking with all of you. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. You all provided incredible insights. You are all on a credible mission, and hoping that we can translate some of the success of what you're working on here to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, to the global world. As Dr. Adel said, this will improve patient outcomes both today and tomorrow, and that is in essence what is the most important. So thank you all, and please join me in giving a round of applause to our speakers.
Thank you. Hey, thanks, man.